Hello everyone, I'm Nita Adrianti. So the previous video, we already see my lesson plan about descriptive text. So for this video, I would like to explain the material development that I made before with the topic narrative text. So let's start. Well everyone, so after we discuss about the lesson plan of descriptive text in the previous video, now it's time for us to discuss about the lesson plan of narrative text. So, the topic is narrative text for the students at 11th grade, which is the students of senior high school. And then the learning model is project-based learning, and there will be 3 meetings for this topic, and each meeting will span 90 minutes. For the learning media, the teacher uses laptop and LCD projector. Move to the learning objective. The first learning objective, students can identify the text structure and language features in narrative text by observing the example given, verbally and in writing form correctly. The second one is students can write simple narrative text by writing folklore with illustrated pictures in the form of picture storybook correctly. And finally, the students can tell narrative text by presenting their final picture storybook fluently. So let's move to the learning activity for the first meeting, which spans 90 minutes. For the pre-activity, as usual, the teacher greets the students and the students greet the teacher. And then they pray together. And then after that, the teacher checks the students' attendance. And finally, the teacher gives a perception related to the topic. The teacher gives a perception by asking some question such as, have you ever read Cinderella's story? Do you like this story? Why do you like this kind of story? So the students will answer because the story have moral value of blah 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 or etc. And after the students answer the questions, move to the main activity, which is the first phase, is essential questions. So in this stage, the students observe the example of narrative text displayed by the teacher. So after the apperception, the teacher will give the example of narrative text. So here is the example with the title is Mylin Kundang. So the teacher will give several minutes, a few minutes for the students to read the story. And then the students identify the structure and language features of this text. So after the teacher show an example of narrative text, the teacher and students identify the structure and language features of narrative text based on the example given. It is done by asking the student the main character of the story, the events of the story, and etc. And also the teacher can ask the characteristics they found on the text or on the example given. For example, the teacher asks about the language use of the story. So it doesn't mean that the teacher will explain directly the definition of the language feature or the structure of the narrative text. So here the students can also ask the teacher about what they don't understand about the story, about the text, and the teacher can ask the other students to answer or to give solution or to give explanation based on what their friend don't understand. And finally, the teacher asks essential questions that aim at exploration of the knowledge that students have based on their learning experiences, in which this essential question will lead to the task in conducting an activity. So the teacher can give several questions like have you ever read Indonesian folklore? What is that? So uh, for example, the students will answer Malin Kundang, Danau Toba, Roro Jonggrang, or etc. And then the teacher goes to, in your opinion, what is the most famous Indonesian folklore? Uh, and then the student will answer that question. And after that, finally, the teacher gives a project to students to write an Indonesian folklore with their ideas in the form of a picture storybook. So the teacher gives a project to the students to create picture storybook. To create a picture storybook. It is about an Indonesian folklore. It can be Malin Kundang, Danau Toba, Sangkuriang, or etc. So move to the second phase, which is designing project planning. In this stage, the teacher asks the students to work individually, and then the teacher explains the tasks of each student, and students and teacher discuss the types of activities that are relevant to the project plan. So the students will work individually. They choose a folklore, but they can freely choose a folklore or an Indonesian folklore that they want to write, but they will develop the story with their own version. For example, one of them choose Malin Kundang. So he or she will make a story with the same core story as Malin Kundang, and also the same moral values, but with a different version. For example, different setting, different name of the main character, or etc. And they will write their own story and put it in picture storybook by using drawing book like A4 drawing book, and therefore the storybook must contain some pictures that illustrate the events of the story. The pictures can be drawn, or they can find relevant pictures on internet and then stick those pictures on the drawing book. So for the third phase, creating schedule, the teacher facilitates the students in creating work schedules, determining the time duration and the target achievements of each activity. So to finish this project, it will spend 3 times. It will spend 3 times meeting to work on this project. So here is the example of the project. Here the example of the picture storybook that I mentioned before. But remember, this is only the examples to give you illustration about the project. Of course, the students at 11th grade of senior high school can do better, can create a better picture and story than this example. So let's continue. In the fourth phase, which is monitoring students and the progress of the project, in this stage, students develop their ideas and find out the information related to the folklore they want to write. And then the teacher gets students to develop their ideas and find out um, find out relevant information related to what they want to write. And students finally develop the topic of their writing and organize their ideas in the form of the draft writing. So in the first meeting at this space, the students focus on doing pre-writing, in which they develop their ideas and find out the relevant information about the story they want to write. uh, they can find out on the internet or etc. After that, they organize their ideas and information gathered in the form of draft writing. Then after finishing the draft, the teacher finally checks the draft and gives feedback. So here, uh, only such pre-writing, they they only develop their ideas and then make a draft writing. Okay, after that, we let's keep the fourth and fifth activity in a phase uh, 5 in a phase in the phase 5, which is assessing the result. The teacher will check the student's writing draft and gives feedback to each student. So after the students create or make the uh, draft writing of their ideas toward the story, so the teacher will check the writing. And after that, we will move uh, back to the phase 4, which is after the feedback given by the teacher. So the students continue to develop their writing draft by writing the paragraphs of the story, and the teacher monitors the progress of the project by checking their work. So at this stage, the teacher can guide them by explaining how to make a good paragraph and how to arrange sentences in a certain order of series. So yeah, after the feedback, finally they can develop their writing draft by writing the final paragraphs of the story. So in the post activity, at the end of the lesson, the teacher asks students to continue the project at the next meeting, but students are asked to prepare pictures that are relevant to their story, as well as the elements of the storybook needed. So they will bring all of these elements in the second meeting. And then the teacher asks the difficulties that students face during the learning process, and then the teacher asks students to continue the project in the next meeting, like I said before. And then the teacher and students pray together, and after that the teacher closes the learning. That's all about the first meeting. Okay, move to the second meeting. In the pre-activity, as usual, the teacher greets the students and the student greet the teacher, and then they pray together. After that, the teacher checks the students' attendance, and finally the teacher gives icebreaking to the students. So in this icebreaking, the teacher grouped the students into 3 groups, namely angry, sad, and cheerful groups. The teacher divides students into 3 groups by asking them to count 1 to 3, and the students with the same number will be in one group. Then the teacher displays 3 different illustrated stories for each group. So they will read the story with different emotion. One group must read the story displayed in turns with angry emotion, the second group with sad emotions, and the last group with happy or cheerful emotions. This icebreaking is aimed to reduce their boredom because they learn the same material in 2 weeks. Therefore, it will create a fun atmosphere at the beginning of learning. I do apologize because I didn't find the illustration of ice breaking, like the ice breaking in the description text. I already tried to find out uh, the same ice breaking like I mentioned before on YouTube, but I didn't find anything. So I hope my explanation is clear enough for you. And then we move to the main activity. For the first phase until the third phase, we're done in the first meeting, and then move to the fourth phase, which is monitoring students and the progress of the project. So in this stage, the teacher asks about the progress of the project to each students and asks them to note the obstacle found. And then students write the paragraph of their folklore. So, in the second meeting, students continue writing the story. After that, we move to the fifth phase, which is assessing result. The teacher asks students to exchange their paragraph of the story to their peers. And then students check their friends' writing or peer correction and give comments or suggestions toward their writing. So after that, after they continue write the paragraphs of their story of their folklore, the story will be exchanged with their peers in the fifth phase. So they make correction to the story written by their friends. At this stage, they focus on spelling, grammar, and the other. If there is correction, they can revise their story to be better before put the story into the storybook. Then back again to the fourth phase. After peer correction, like I said before, students can revise their writing, and then after that, students begin to draw or stick the illustrated pictures of their story and put the story on the drawing book. And the teacher keeps monitor the progress of the project by checking their work. So move to the post activity. The teacher asks the difficulties that students face during the learning process. During the progress of their project. And then the teacher asks students to continue the project in the next meeting, and the teacher and students pray together, and after that the teacher closes the learning. Okay, let's move to the third meeting or the last meeting of this topic. In the pre-activity, the teacher greets the student as usual, and then they pray together, and after that the teacher checks the students' attendance. In the main activity, the first phase until the third phase were done in the first meeting, and then after that in the fourth phase, in this stage the students draw or stick the illustrated pictures of their story and put the story on the drawing book and then the students design their storybook. So in the third meeting, the students activity is to finalize the picture storybook, like continue to draw, sticking pictures, making cover, or put the story to their storybook. And then in this stage also, the teacher still monitors the progress of the project by checking their work. After that, the teacher checks in the fifth phase, which is assessing the result. The teacher checks each student's storybook. I mean the final result of their storybook. And then some students show their storybook and tell the story in front of the class. Why I said some students? Because it depends on the time. If the time doesn't enough to make all students present their storybook in the form in front of the class, so there are only several students who will show their storybook in front of the class. And after that, the other students listen and give comments and also suggestion toward their friend's project and the performance. And after that, move to the last phase, which is evaluation. Teachers and students reflect on the activities and results of the project that have been carried out. So teacher and students reflect on learning. They evaluate the project making process, such as the obstacle they found during working and their satisfaction with the product they already created. And for the post activity, the teacher and students conclude and clarify the lesson that has been done together. That it can be done by asking the students what they got from the topic, their understanding of the topic, and etc. And then the teacher and students pray together, and after that the teacher closes the learning. So everyone, that's all about the lesson plan of narrative text. I hope you can clearly understand about my explanation, and I do apologize if there are so many mistakes on my videos. Well everyone, thank you for watching and listening my explanation. Goodbye.